All right, thanks one more time for everyone for joining us today for the ASSISTments New User Webinar Part 2, a deep dive on data for illustrative math teachers. My name is Dawn Peterson, and we'll do a little bit more intro in just a minute. Just some etiquette for today's webinar. Please leave your microphone control off during the duration of the webinar. You can choose to have your video on or off, whatever you're comfortable with. And please use the chat to ask any questions, any wonderings, anything at all. We do have 2 chat moderators with us, which I'll be introducing in just a moment. But please note, if we don't respond to your question right away, it's probably because it will be addressed later on in the webinar. And just a note that anyone who has registered for this session will receive a follow-up email, most likely tomorrow morning, with a copy of the slide deck where you can access all the links that we show you today and a video recording. The goal of today is that all participants will learn how to maximize ASSISTments data to support student learning alongside with the illustrative math curriculum. So we're going to be starting off with some introductions, an overview of ASSISTments, and a recap of last week's Part 1 session. We'll be moving on to analyzing ASSISTments data. Then we'll talk about some scenarios of using data to inform instruction and how to use ASSISTments data to discuss with students. And then we'll wrap up and talk about some next steps. So back to introductions. Again, my name is Dawn. I'm the Director of Content and Partnerships here at ASSISTments. I was an 8th grade math teacher in Massachusetts for 14 years, and I stumbled upon ASSISTments early in my teaching career and instantly fell in love and used it regularly with my students for about 10 years before I was recruited by ASSISTments to come over and do some teacher support on their end. So along with Carrie, who you'll meet in just a moment, I am one of the biggest cheerleaders of ASSISTments there is, and I'm so happy to share what I know about ASSISTments with you today. Before I turn it over to Carrie, I just want to highlight that we also have Angie today with us from the Kendall Hunt team. She's going to be monitoring the chat. So if you have any questions at all about this brand new illustrative math K-5 curriculum, please don't hesitate to put those questions in the chat and Angie can address those. So I'm going to turn it over to Carrie now.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for the introduction. I'm along the same lines with Dawn. I was a teacher in the classroom until very recently, and I used ASSISTments to kind of change my teaching practice and became just kind of the big cheerleader for the platform and the data that it provides to kind of inform my instruction and really just get my students talking and discussing and learning math. So I was in the classroom for 12 years prior to this role, specifically as a middle school math teacher using the illustrative math curriculum. So I think I'm going to go ahead and move on to a bit more introductions about what is ASSISTments if you're not familiar with it yet. It's a free, forever free math formative assessment tool. And so what it does for teachers is it integrates with Google Classroom and Canvas seamlessly. So that saves you a lot of time. And it also has a content library full of resources that you can pull from. And like I said prior, what I noticed about it changing my classroom practice was the fostering of growth mindset in my students. They really wanted to persevere and loved that immediate feedback that came with ASSISTments. So why? ASSISTments was essentially it gives my students regular and timely feedback, right? They could get immediate corrective feedback when they were working independently. This increased their engagement lots in my classroom. And for me, I could use that data to inform my instruction. So I could get it quickly and then use that to kind of target my instruction based on student misconceptions. And then I could quickly identify which students needed interventions and which students are ready for like additional challenges. And so if you don't believe me, ASSISTments is actually proven and backed by research. And so we were in a couple of independent studies, but we're one of 3 middle school math interventions with a tier 1 rating and have shown 75% more learning. So this is really important as we think about this next year and supporting COVID recovery with our students. For me as a teacher and along with 20,000 other teachers, it's easy to use when it comes to this platform. You don't have to scour the internet for practice problems because it's all available in the content library. You get immediate data to kind of inform your instructions. And so you're really meeting students where they're at. And then students actually get immediate feedback as well. So they're not sitting around stuck on whether or not they're correct. They actually have that information to move forward. So a typical teacher routine is a teacher, I would assign an assignment, students would complete the assignment, and then there would be teacher grading of the assignment, and then I could use to inform my instruction. I don't know about you, but for me, I definitely got stuck around 3 or 4. And so that's kind of where I found ASSISTments to be the most help. And so a typical routine with ASSISTments is that, again, you can assign, but there's a content library full of information. Students, as they're working, get immediate feedback to move forward. And so they know right away whether or not they're correct or incorrect and can use that information to progress their own learning. And then I, as the teacher, get a data report, which we're going to cover a lot in this section. So this data report can actually be used to analyze information that can then be used in an actionable way when it came to the lesson the next day. So, yeah.
All right, thanks, Carrie. So before we move on to step 3 and 4, which are 2 of the goals of today, I'm going to do a quick recap of step 1 and 2. If you weren't able to come last time or you're coming to us for the first time, I'm happy to do a little recap, but if you haven't yet, you should probably go and watch our new user part 1 session. So step 1 involves the teacher going into the ASSISTments content library, finding the content that they want to assign, and then assigning right through Google Classroom or Canvas. So for each one of these steps, I'm going to do some live demo. I'm going to walk you through the slide deck. I'm going to make sure you have everything that you need to start using ASSISTments with students or support the staff that you work with at your school. So I'll start here at the ASSISTments app. So you'll go to the ASSISTments website, log in with your account, and then you'll be brought to our content library, which Carrie has shared already a few times about. So we have lots of content to assign from. Most likely you are here because you are using that Kendall Hunt Illustrative Math curriculum. So if you are looking for your daily instruction, your homework, your cool downs, whatever it is, you're going to click right into the grade level folder. Find the unit that you're working on. With the elementary content, just a note, we do have grade 1 through 5 for the elementary content. We did not build out kindergarten since we don't think we can serve the kindergartens best with our platform at this time, maybe something that we add in the future. But you'll find the sections that you'll see right on that Kendall Hunt website, and then find the lesson, and then student-facing tasks and cool downs. If you're navigating right through the content folders, you can select all of the problems in that problem set or just make a selection. So if I make a selection, I can check off the boxes and click Assign to Class. At this point, again, just a review from last time, you might want to change the name of the assignment as they are a little bit cumbersome. Maybe I'll call this Tuesday homework. You'll choose your LMS. The very first time you will import and synchronize your classes, and then you can choose the class or classes to assign to, choose the problem order, and then set a release or due date, and that is optional. Just to note, if you do want access to the Kendall Hunt Illustrative Math assessments, you should email us at contact@assistments.org, and then you will need to enable test mode. Real quick, I just want to show you where that is because it doesn't show up in in that mode until you turn it on. So if we go up to your account settings, right over here, you'll see enable test mode. Okay, so if you don't do that right off the bat, you're not going to see that in the assign time options. So one more time, I'm just going to click through and assign. You select your options of how you're assigning, choose your class, and then once you click assign to class, you will get that confirmation message. Another way that you can assign content, again, just a review from last time, is to curate from different skills. So if you're looking for problems that align specifically with identifying angles, 4th grade skill GA1. If you put in that skill or just start typing in a description, you'll find all the problems across curriculums in our content library that you can assign from. And then you can filter by Kendall Hunt 1 through 5. So you can still curate your own problem set aligned to a certain standard from the Illustrative Math content library. When you're ready, I'll just make a selection of a couple questions. Instead of assigning to class, you also have the option to save to problem sets. So if you're in a state right now where you're just doing some prep to get started with the school year, or you want to create some assignments and then push them out later, you can save to my problem sets, view in my problem sets, and this is all the assignments that you have that you can assign at a later date. All right, so let me just pop back over here. So a quick recap. We do have the IM Elementary 1st through 5th grade, along with all the middle and high school content. For every student-facing practice, you have the option to assign online through your LMS. Students get that immediate feedback that Carrie was talking about. Teachers get class and student level data reports, which we're going to dive into today. For each of the lessons, when available, you're going to find all the student tasks, including the warm-ups, the practice problem sets, which are specific to each one of the sections, and then any cool downs. Just to note that there are not cool downs when it has the station work, but when available, you're going to find those cool downs. And again, if you're looking for those unit assessments, just shoot us an email at contact@assistments.org. And just a refresh, you can search by curriculum, or you can search by standard. All right, so real quick, we've got a small group today, so I definitely appreciate your participation here. We're just wondering, have you tried using ASSISTments since we talked last week to assign illustrative math content to your classes? And if so, how? Have you tried the warm-ups? Have you tried the student tasks, collaborative work, cool downs, or homework and practice problems? And if you haven't had the chance to assign, I saw that we had some support coaches in here and things of that sort. So where do you recommend teachers should get started? So I'm going to give about 30 seconds. Again, we have a small group today, so I'd love to hear from you in the chat. What have you tried, or where do you anticipate your entry point being with ASSISTments? Great. Thank you for everyone that's participating. We got a couple people going with cool downs. We had the middle and high school session on Monday, and a lot of people there were saying warm-ups would be their entry point. Thank you for your participation. And we're going to see some scenarios that involve cool downs later on in the session. All right, so just moving on to step 2. Step 2 is where students get immediate feedback as they work on their assignment. So just to recap, when the students are doing their work, they are going to see one question at a time. They're going to get immediate feedback as they work, and they can track their progress here in the bar on the left. The feedback that they're going to get is corrective feedback. So if they get that problem correct, they are told that they're correct, they know they're on the right track, and they can move on. If they get a problem incorrect, they get the messaging, sorry, try again. This is where that growth mindset that Carrie talked about really fits in. Students can persevere and try again, literally an unlimited amount of time, so that they can get that positive feedback when they arrive at the correct answer. And then lastly, there is a show answer button. The only time that this is disabled is when you set something in testing mode, but the purpose of it being there is that if a student gets stuck, they can type the answer in and move on to the next problem in the problem set. And today I'm going to show you on the report how to tell very obviously who had to press that button so you can give proper intervention. And when the student's done with their assignment, they're always going to see a student assignment report, which will overview how they did. They can hover over these IDs on the left to see, to review the question one more time. And this is where they'll get to see any feedback that the teacher provides to them. All right, so I'll pause here. Like I said at the beginning, any questions, any wonderings, you want to see something again, I'm happy to demo that. So Carrie, anything coming up at this point for questions?
I don't have any questions yet.
Okay, cool. Like I said, guys, keep them coming. We're happy to slow down and answer questions if you have them. All right, so we're going to jump right into step 3 now. The teacher analyzes the data instead of grading. So we are going to work through the mindset of Catherine. Catherine is a 5th grade math teacher who uses illustrative math for her math curriculum. She's using ASSISTments for the first time, so let's consider what she needs to know in order to analyze ASSISTments data. First, she needs a quick refresher, because we did talk about this a little bit last week, how to access the ASSISTments data report. So I'm going to pop over here live. There are 2 ways that you can access the ASSISTments data report. One is directly through your LMS. So if the teacher logs into Google Classroom or Canvas, they're going to click on the assignment that they're looking to review data for. Let me find a more populated one here. Right off the bat, you get to see how many students turned that in, how many were assigned, and how many were graded. And when you click on the ASSISTments link within, you'll be brought to our data report. So that's the first way, right through your LMS. The second way is by clicking on My Assignments and the tab on your left. Once you're logged in, you have the option to filter by class, by status, and by release or due date. And then when you click on each individual assignment, at a top level, you'll get to see the number of students who completed the assignment, the title, of course, number of problems, any release or due date, and any tag standards for that problem set. When you click on View Report, that's the second way that you are brought into the assignment report. All right, so again, just a recap, you can get to that assignment report directly through your LMS. And just a note that if you do have co-teachers in your Google Classroom or Canvas, this is the only way that they're going to be able to access that data, since they're not linked to your ASSISTments account. So again, any co-teachers that are both managing one class together will have to access right through the LMS. The other way is going right into your ASSISTments account, clicking on My Assignments, choosing any filters or sort by dates, and then you'll see the reports by clicking on View Report. All right, so Catherine now has access to her ASSISTments data report. Now she needs to understand how to analyze the data, to understand which students need more support and with what concepts. So this is going to be a pretty meaty part of our discussion today. So I'm going to overview the report, show you all the pieces of relevant information that you might want to dive into, and then we're going to have a little bit of time to unpack, and you'll be able to do a little playing around with the report on your own. So we're going to start here on the report with the title, of course, and then at the top we have progress cards. So you're going to be able to see how many students have not started, how many in progress, how many completed, and how many there are total. When I click on each of these cards, you'll see additional information. So students not started, they haven't accessed the assignment at all. When I click on in progress, I'll see when the student last logged in and worked on that individual assignment. And when I click on completed, I get to see when the student completed the assignment. Moving down, this is our performance summary. So at a glance here, you're going to be able to see for each individual question, the number of students who got that problem correct on the first try, got it correct eventually after 2, 3+ tries. And this pink right here indicates the number of students who had to press the show answer button. So looking for that pink bar is really going to tell you which students persevered, or they just pressed show answer, but they could not arrive at the correct answer on their own. Over here on the right, you also have the option to filter. So if you quickly want to see the problems that students got incorrect, you'll be able to highlight those as well. Additionally, if I click on any of these titles right here in blue, those are the problem names. I get to see a bar at the right, which gives me all of the problem details. So it's going to give me the problem in student view. And let me expand this a little just so you can see it a bit easier. The student view of that problem, exactly what the students saw when they were working through the student experience. Any acceptable correct answers are going to be highlighted. And then another breakdown of students who got the problem correct, incorrect, or correct eventually. And you can also toggle through the problems just by clicking next or previous here. One other thing is you'll also get to see here any skill tags, any standards that were tagged for this individual problem. All right, moving down a bit. This is the details report. So this is where you're going to get to see your individual problem and individual student details. So starting up here in the upper left, this is the average score for the assignment. Each one of these columns represents a different question, and you got it when I press on this title right here. It's also going to open up the problem view over on the right. So I get to see the score for each individual question and question part. If there was any common wrong answers, those are going to be highlighted here. Common wrong answers are the common misconceptions given by students. So this tells me here that 1 was the incorrect answer that several students gave. 27% of the students who got it wrong said an answer of 1. So we'll come back to that later in the presentation, but common wrong answers when available. And then I'll also get to see the total time spent over here on the right. I'm going to go ahead and click this eyeball up here to unhide student names, just so I can show you that each one of these rows right here is an individual student. Their score, the colors here correspond to the colors above, correct, correct eventually, and incorrect. And then the symbols that match with each one of these bubbles tell you about whether the student receives support. So I'm going to show you up here, right here with the eye, not this eye over here, this eye here for scoring. When I click on that, it's going to give me a little more details so you can get used to what this report means. The triangle means there was an embedded hint in that problem. So one triangle tells me that the student received 1 hint and then got the problem right on the second try. And the X's simply mean an incorrect response. So again, to see that, you just have to click on the I next to the word scoring, and that'll open up that key. Moving down a bit more, if I want to delete student progress, maybe I want to do some reteaching or relearning, I can go ahead and press on the triple dot next to the student name. What this is going to do is wipe out all the student responses, and it's going to allow the student a fresh start. So when they click back into the assignment, it will restart for them. If we're not sure if we want to restart yet, maybe we want to dive a little bit deeper on what a student's performance was. We're talking about the student details report. So if I click on a student's name on the left, the student details report will open. This is literally a play-by-play of what the student entered. This isn't something you're going to look at every day, all the time, but it may be very convenient if you want to dig a little bit deeper on whether a student is putting in an honest effort or maybe where they made their error. So we're going to see how much time a student put in before they entered any response. So an extra 3 minutes and 33 seconds, and then they gave their second response. Most of you can probably figure out the issue if you look at this and see the problem. And just a note, you can see the problem by hovering over this started a problem. As I go down, I can also see one of the ways that we can do some essay scoring, and I'll come back to that in a minute, but we can also see the total score. You can toggle between students here. So if you're looking for a particular student, you can just click the next or previous button. All right, one other thing, I'm just looking and see if I didn't miss anything. I am going to talk about essay scoring. One other thing is the standards report. So some districts do score by assignment. Some districts are very committed to scoring and giving feedback to students by standard. So each one of our assignment reports does have a standards view. So this view is going to let you know what standards have been addressed in this particular assignment, how many problems there were that were addressed, that addressed that standard, and then how the student performed. And you can see I clicked on the sorting feature here. So for this particular standard on ratios and proportions from grade 7, I can see what students mastered it and what students got one of those problems wrong. So this is one way that you could serve your students best, find what students are missing, missing content in a particular standard, and be able to do some reteaching. Carrie, any questions coming in yet? And then I'm going to talk about essay scoring.
Yeah, so this one came in of how does this system compare to something like IXL? How would you encourage teachers to use this in addition to IXL? Is there a grade that you would recommend using this platform with? Like, does it work well with younger students?
Sure. Yeah. So like I said at the start, we chose not to add the kindergarten curriculum because a lot of the work, which you'll see in just a minute, in the Kendall Hunt curriculum, IM curriculum, ask students to submit their work, draw a picture, draw an image, things of that sort. And right now, our processes for students inputting their work is to take a picture or use an external drawing tool. This is something we're well aware is not the most easy experience for our younger students. So we are working on a solution for that, which will be available sometime this fall, fingers crossed. I'm not as familiar with IXL, but I will say that if you're looking for specific skills practice, in addition to assigning Kendall Hunt material, is we do have a plethora of other content. If you're looking to give a kind of mastery-based problem set, you're talking about our skill builders. So the way skill builders work is that you would look through the grade level, find a skill that you want students to complete, and it's going to randomly deliver problems to students aligned to that skill. And once they get 3 in a row, they've mastered that topic. So if you are looking for specific skills practice that's kind of automated, Skill Builders is where you're going to go. Another place you can look is problem solving. So these are just kind of extra question banks aligned to a common core strand and skill that you can pick and choose from to deliver to students. And then lastly, we also have some release state tests, a big bank of those in Massachusetts and New York. Massachusetts starts at grade 3, New York starts at grade 3 as well. So again, I'm sorry if I missed the mark. If there's something more specific that I can speak to, I'm happy to do that. But yeah, ASSISTments, I think if you're using ASSISTments for the Illustrative Math curriculum, there's lots of things to add on to help to support your students. Anything else coming in?
Yeah, well, you showed 2 things. The first one, can you show how to sort by standard again in that standard report? So like when you're in there, how to sort it?
Yeah, so once I'm in the standard report, each one of these columns is sortable. So just by clicking the arrow to the right of average score, you can sort in ascending or descending order.
And then
you can also, and sorry, Carrie, and in both of these reports, you can anonymize names, you can remove names, you can hide different columns depending on your needs and whether you're presenting this with in front of students.
And then will you highlight one more time the scoring, where you can see the scoring and how you can tell if a student clicked show answer?
You got it. So incorrect means the student showed answer. Anytime that you see this pink, it used to be red. I'm sorry, it used to be bright yellow in our old reports, but it's this nicer looking pink, but it's kind of like red, alert, alert. So up here, this is the red is the student who had to press show answer, meaning they never got it correctly on their own. And then down here, that's also where we're going to see the student who had to press show answer. So if you're looking for the key, you're just going to go ahead and press scoring at the top of the report. And notice it does say incorrect. Student answered correctly after they were given what the answer or the explanation was. Anything else? And then I'm going to find I thought I had one on here, an open response question. I think I'll have to go to one of the other reports for that. Anything else, Carrie, that I can answer at this time?
I think you've answered all of them.
Okay, great. So I'm just going to go right over here and I'll just access a report right through my LMS. And fingers crossed, I think all of these were already scored. Let me find one more just so I can show you how this works. Sorry, everyone. I promised yesterday it was not all scored. Okay, so if you're grading an open response question, you're going to see the word assess over here. Just to note that If you choose not to score and leave feedback on open response questions, that will not impact the student's score. You may just want to look at the student's explanations, look at the image that they uploaded. Sometimes with the amount of showing and explaining of work, it might be a little overwhelming with how much work you might have to grade on your own. So just a note, you don't have to score every single open response question. But the first way that you can access and choose to score is by pressing on assess. So that will open the open response scoring window. So this was kind of a silly question. So sorry, what was your favorite color? So if you choose to score, you're just going to put a score on a 4-point scale. Red is a great color, so I'm going to give that a 4 out of 4. Leave whatever feedback you want. And now that 4 out of 4 for this student, Chris, once I refresh, is going to carry over to the assignment report as 100 right over here. Again, if we don't score, this is not impacting the student's overall average. The other way that you can score open response questions is by, let me go ahead and show student names, is by accessing the student details report. So for this student, I can scroll down. Again, this is the play-by-play for each student just by clicking on their name. And I can leave feedback here. I'll leave a 4 out of 4. Blue is okay. Nice answer. And again, that 4 out of 4 is going to carry over to the report. If you're looking to just share responses with your students and maybe curate a discussion or anything like that, you may just want to pull up these responses, hide student names, and you can even rank the order that you want these to show. So if I want to highlight some answers that I really like, I'm going to put 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe these are exemplars. Maybe these are just 4 you want to highlight. I can custom sort. So those are the 4 that are going to show up on the top of my screen, which is kind of nice because you're not having to sort through all the responses to initiate a discussion with your students. All right, so that is the report. Like I said, I promised you some time to play around with that. So let's just do a quick recap of those key points, and then you'll have some time to unpack. So the assignment report is going to show you the title, which is customizable. So think about how you want to title those on a regular basis so your students know what they're doing. The student progress cards, the performance summary. At a glance, you get to see which questions need support. And then the student details report. The student progress cards, you can click on those and see some timestamps if you need to know when students logged in. The performance summary gives you at a glance a summary of what problems need the most support. And just once again, we're looking for that pink bar. The pink bar means they never got it correct. They needed to ask for the answer. If you're looking to support students, you can delete student progress and give them a second opportunity, again, supporting growth mindset in your classroom. And if you're looking for the student details report, you're going to click on this triple dot next to the student name. You're going to click on the student name. It used to be on the triple dot. You'll click right on that student's name, and that will bring you to the student details report. The scoring key, it does take some time to get used to a new platform and the different way we're reporting scoring. So the scoring key is available by clicking on the I with the word scoring next to it. The problem details are accessible in 2 ways, either by clicking on the blue problem ID here or right at the top of the details report. And this is where you get to see relevant standards, the problem as viewable by students, answers, correct answers, of course, this is where your answer key is, and the student score breakdown. And then back to the student details report, which is going to give you a play-by-play. Scoring and feedback, again, this is optional. You can click on the word assess or go right through the student details report to score and leave feedback to student work. The student averages are not impacted. Geez, I feel like I've said this 100 times, but one more time, you don't have to score. Student scores are not impacted if you choose not to. And make sure you have a routine in place for prompting students to check their feedback. One thing I want to show you real quick, which I think I showed last week's session, is just from a student's point of view, how you get that feedback. So you'll need to let your students know that you left feedback and scored their open response work. So a couple examples of what that could look like in Google Classroom, same goes for Canvas. You might want to leave a comment to the class that just says, I want you to click back into the assignment that you already completed to see feedback. Or I've left some feedback, click back in and respond to whatever question I asked in the chat. So when the student clicks back into their completed assignment, they're going to see this nice blue box, which has their teacher comment, and their open response work will be scored. All right, and lastly, the standards report. So if you are looking at whether students mastered the standards on the assignment, you'll see the standards that are present in that problem set, how many problems, and then how the students scored. All right, last thing, and then I promise I'm going to give you a little breather and a break. So we talked about this last time, but I'll just reiterate it that while we have so much data to work with, there's 4 key pieces of data that we recommend to focus on to get you started. One is the class average. The class average serves to quickly assess whole class understanding of the assignment. The problem average identifies which individual problems need whole class review. Think your homework review that you start your class with, or after you do an exit ticket, you're going to be able to see on each individual problem how students performed. The common wrong answer can help to facilitate whole class discussions around common misconceptions. And one of my favorite things I like to do, I know Carrie did as well, is a my favorite no activity. And we actually have a little user resource that we've created on my favorite no that Carrie will share in the chat in just a minute. But it's really celebrating misconceptions, or excuse me, celebrating the correct pieces that happened that led to an incorrect misconceptions, giving students a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? A little bit more, I don't know, makes them feel good to know that they did part of the problem right. I'll have to think about the word I was looking for later. But Carrie sharing that in the slide, in the chat. And lastly, the individual student score, either by problem or by standard, helps the teacher to identify students that need small group reteaching or relearning. All right. So we're going to do a short break right now. Carrie is going to share a link in the chat. It's a PDF style report. We can't get you into a live report with all of our data security, but we'd love for you to click on the link that Carrie's going to put in the chat right there. And that's going to open up this report. So I'm going to give you about 3 minutes and I'll start in just a moment. But I just want you to play around and familiarize yourself with the report, ask any questions, ask me to recap something that I already went over. But I just want to note that anything that's circled in blue, Carrie, who is a whiz, anything that you click in blue, it's going to kind of pop you over to where that's going to bring you on the report. And then you can go back to the report by clicking the arrow at the bottom. So everyone can access that. I'm going to start the timer now. And right now, all you have to do is poke around, look around, see if you have any questions. And then we're going to do a little quiz to see if you know where to find some key elements on that report. So I'm going to start the time now.
John, can you speak more to what's happening. So this question is coming in that the open response questions are the ones that require students to complete them on paper and then upload an image. And is this what you mentioned earlier that may be changing in the future?
Yes, absolutely. And I'll give you a little bit of a privy information here. So just to show you on one of these examples, and actually I'll kind of show you what I'm doing as I do this, is anytime you're looking to kind of preview a problem as a student, I'm looking for an open response one in this section. Hopefully I'll find one right here at the bottom. You can click on the triple dot next to the problem and preview a student. So yes, currently any open response questions, students will need to take a picture of their work if it's done on paper, or use a drawing tool on their computer, take a screenshot and upload that into ASSISTments using the picture upload button. Just the other day I was in a meeting and I saw some great mock-ups for having kind of a few buttons here that have an embedded drawing tool that students will be able to use, which will make it so much easier. They'll have a button that will automatically initiate their camera so they can take a picture of their work, or they can continue to just take a picture with their device, save it to their desktop or their device, and then upload it from there. We do have some videos, and Carrie, at some point, I don't think this is a rush, but it might be a good idea to share those. We have created some videos to support all students, but I think specifically the younger gang, showing them how they can upload their pictures using a drawing tool or using their device on paper, since we know that this is something that is some students struggle with. But I assure you, moving forward, we are going to have that experience is going to be easier for the students. All right, so that 3 minutes is up. And so, like I said, we're going to do a little quiz. So we'd love for you to keep that report up. And we're basically going to ask some real high level questions, seeing if you can find the correct key data points on that report. So for each one of the questions, I'm going to give you about 20 seconds. I'll ask you to just push your answers in the chat, and Carrie will read those aloud. And we'll see if we need to kind of review anything one more time before we dive into some data scenarios. So first question, if you agree to take my question, is what is the average score on the assignment? And again, when I say the assignment, I'm talking about the assignment link that Carrie shared just a minute ago. So again, we appreciate you sharing in the chat. We got a small group today, but we want to make sure you are rearing and ready to go when you leave our session. What is the average score on the assignment? All right, and it looks like people may be multitasking today. I get it, it's a very busy time of year. So I'm going to walk you through and just show you where this is if people are a little busy.
Oh, I had somebody come in with 60%.
Oh, good. I'm so happy. Excellent. 60%. And of course, we're looking right over here at the details report. I guess I should have gave one last second. Right here, 60% in the upper left-hand corner of the details report. Amazing. All right, next question, if you choose to accept it, which individual problem had the lowest average score?
I'm seeing P2 as an answer.
Right, let's see. So, oh, excuse me. So P2, or problem number 2, actually has 2 parts. So absolutely, problem 2 part A has the lowest score of 50%, but part B has 75%. So it looks like students did a little bit better on the second part than the first part. Again, thank you for your participation. So problem 2 part A. All right, next, how many students have started but have not finished the assignment? How many students are in progress with the assignment? I'd love for you to share in the chat.
Is it one student, Dawn?
Is it one student? Drum roll, please. Yes, it is one student. And of course, we're looking at the student progress cards up here on the top of the report. And when you click on in progress right here, you're going to see the last time that student logged in. Excellent. All right, couple more, and then we're going to dig a little bit deeper. For problem 1, part A, on what attempt did student 3 arrive at the correct answer? For problem 1, part A, what attempt did student 3 arrive at the correct answer? And there's actually 2 places you can find this on our assignment report.
This, I have second attempt, and there's like an X next to it.
Yes, absolutely. So I can tell that one person chose to look at the scoring guide. So student 3, question 1A, we see that 1X next to the orange. So the scoring guide tells us they got it right on the second attempt. The other place that you can look, if we click on student 3's name, is the student details report. So we can see on the student details report that on the first problem, the student got it right, wrong, and then got it right on the second attempt. All right, excellent. 2 more questions, 2 more questions. Oop. How many questions from the problem set were aligned with 7 RP A2B with that Common Core skill?
I have an answer of 2.
Yes.
Align with that.
2 is absolutely correct. And hopefully it was very obvious where you're going to go. You're going to go right to the standards report. So the standards report gives you each standard that's aligned and the number of problems that were in this problem set aligned to that skill. All right, thanks for playing along. We got 1 more question. There we go. There's the 2. What were the correct answers for problem 1, part A? Where do we find that answer key? Obviously, you can find it on the Kendall Hunt Illustrative Math website, but it's got to be available somewhere here. This may be a stumper, our last question.
Ooh, I have an answer of 0.4 3/7.
Absolutely correct. And just to show the rest of the group, if I click on this problem's name up here or down here in the details report, I get the problem details bar over here on the right, and correct answers are always going to be present here unless it's an open response question. All right, thanks so much for playing along with us today, guys. This is the second time Carrie and I have tried this format, and I love being able to give immediate feedback to the teachers who are learning something new, which is one of the philosophies of ASSISTments, of course. So great job, and again, thanks for playing along. All right, so we're just going to do about 2 minutes now, just because we do have a smaller group, just to kind of unpack a little bit more, give you the opportunity to ask any questions about the report now that you've kind of played around with a little bit. So I'm going to set my timer for just 2 minutes, and then we're going to jump into some scenarios. Happy to demo anything again, show you where something is one more time, whatever you need to feel like you're ready to use ASSISTments reports when you leave today. Carrie, any questions coming in that I can clarify for the group?
I don't see any right now.
All right, so we're going to move on, but again, please post those questions in the chat as we go. So we're going to start talking about step 4. The teacher and the student use that data from the report to take action. So checking back in with Catherine, Catherine is now confident that she can effectively and efficiently analyze ASSISTments data. Her next thought is how to use the data to inform instruction and discuss the data with students. I do want to show you the short 3-minute video of a teacher who really changed her mindset and changed her routine when she started using ASSISTments. So I'm going to press play, sit back, relax, and take a look. Oh, sorry, everyone. Take a look.
I'm Kim Kelly. I'm a 7th grade math teacher at Skyview Middle School. I feel like homework is a very important instructional practice, but it's very frustrating trying to figure out how to collect it, how to assess it, how to provide that feedback to the students. Before ASSISTments, I would actually start class with, get out your homework and let's check it. And we wouldn't even start any math until 10 minutes into class.
Here's what I need for you to do. You're going to get out your homework from yesterday, and you are going to check your answers. Where's your homework? You don't have it, okay? Are you done checking? Boys, are you done checking? Okay, does anyone have any questions? Any of them that you want me to go over with you? 161 centimeters. How'd we do? Feel pretty good about them?
With ASSISTments, my homework procedures can be far more efficient. I can dive right into the common misconceptions, where the errors are. I know where we're struggling better than they do.
68% class average. This is the question we just looked at. The other question that was not so hot, 43% correct.
The burden of finding the starting point is off of me, it's off of the students. We can rely on the data to help us identify the starting points for our discussion. I can launch my class with a common wrong answer or a problem where I identified a weakness. Every step of my lesson is driven in a meaningful way.
Is this line right here part of the perimeter? Yeah, so we need to fill it in and add that one too. That was first common mistake, forgetting to add in those two sides.
It benefits the students, but just as much it benefits the teachers. I'm able to identify the common misconceptions, which allows me to steer my instruction quickly to support my student learning.
And there's my correct answer, okay? So most of us were pretty close. Just a couple little common misconceptions that we were able to fix. Good?
Once you start using assessments, students have immediate feedback, so they're learning while they're doing their homework. And then as the teacher using that data to drive the homework review process, you spend so much less time going over the homework that the bulk of your classroom time now can be spent on the new instruction. Plus, all of the students are invested. The conversation is around common misconceptions. It doesn't matter if they completed their homework or they don't have it with them, they can participate in the class. There are so many different options available, but I want to be sure that what I'm investing my time in is research-based and proven to improve student instruction. And I can see with my own students a difference in their learning. It has actually changed my class.
All right, thanks, guys. I just love that video so much, and I hope you share that with some colleagues when you get the slide deck tomorrow morning. All right, so checking back in with Catherine. After teaching Unit 3, Lesson 3 on multiplying unit fractions from 5th grade IM, Catherine assigned the cool down to her students. That evening, she reviewed the resulting assignment report to help plan for her lesson the next day. So we're going to walk through a couple scenarios now, talk about what we noticed from the data and what we can do with that data, actionable data to support your students. So right here, we have just a snapshot of the report. This is in the details report. So I'm going to walk you through and just kind of narrate aloud what my thinking is, and then I'm going to ask you for a little bit of interaction in the next couple of scenarios. So what I notice when I'm looking at this data is that one student has several dark pink bubbles. I noticed someone earlier asked in the chat, remind me again how you can tell if the student pressed show answer. So this student pressed show answer 4 out of 5 times on this assignment. In addition, they only spent 33 seconds on the assignment in total. Those are things that I notice. The conclusions that I can draw is that this student either needs more support at mastering multiplying fractions, or we like to say at ASSISTments, they gamed the system by pressing show answer without making any thoughtful attempts. To figure out which one of those two scenarios it is, we can look at the student details report to see a play-by-play for that student. We can review the data with the student in a one-on-one conference, showing them the information we have available. Hey, you didn't take very much time when you were getting those hints. You probably didn't have time to process the hints that were given to you. Given that the students spent a very little time on each question and requested a lot of hints and support, they clearly did not make their best effort on this problem set. We could meet with the student to reteach and then delete progress and have them try again. All right, so scenario number 2. For homework, Catherine assigned 5 problems from IM 5th grade, Unit 3, Section A practice problems on multiplying fractions. She wants to quickly assess whole class understanding so she can efficiently review homework the next day in class, like I just showed you in Kim Kelly's video. So I'm going to give you about 20 seconds or so just to take a look at this data, and then we're going to kind of see what we notice from this data. All right, here it is on the next screen in case you didn't see it. All right, so Carrie, would you mind launching the poll? Carrie's going to launch a poll to see which of the following noticings are accurate, and then which conclusions can you draw from this data. So I'm going to give about 60 seconds or so, and we've only have a couple people in the group today. So Carrie, you can tell me if both of our small group has submitted earlier, but I'll start the clock for 60 seconds. Is the poll launched, Carrie? I can't even see it for some reason.
Yes, it's
Okay.
launched. It should be on everyone's screen right now.
Awesome. Except mine. Oh, I see it here. Again, we got a small group, so we appreciate your participation in the poll. About 10 more seconds.
All right, I think they have it. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll.
All right.
Here's what we have. I'm going to share my results. Are you
Okay.
able to see that, Dawn?
I can see it. Yes. I can't see it on my big screen, but I can see it. So, so what we see is for the first question, which of the following noticings are accurate? 100%. Most questions scored poorly on 2 questions. That would be question 4 and question 5. Absolutely. If we were using this for our homework review, those are the questions we would need to review. And then these first 3 questions students did pretty well on. Maybe we want to address this common wrong answer. And for the second question, 100%, you guys are rock stars. What can we conclude? 67% of the students who got the problem wrong had a common wrong answer of 1/3. Definitely something that you want to address with your class. In addition to this one over here, 100% of the students who got it wrong all said an incorrect answer of 3. So those are going to help you to facilitate a conversation about misconceptions, but again, celebrate where the students did their work correctly. So what can we do with this data? Definitely start class by reviewing those low scoring problems with students, paying particular attention to why the common wrong answer happened. And just a reminder that Carrie shared that, that My Favorite No resource in the chat. Or you could assign additional standards aligned question on that standard as homework to give students extra practice. All right, and last scenario here. Before teaching her lesson, Catherine created and assigned a custom problem set from IM to assess students' skills in, you guessed it, multiplying fractions. She wants to see if her students have mastered this concept, and her mastery threshold for this assignment is a score of 70%. So in the chat, I'd love to hear what you notice about the data that you see on your screen and what conclusions can you draw from this data. And we're kind of rounding out towards the end here. So I'm just going to do about 30 to 45 seconds for you to take a look and share any noticings, wonderings, conclusions. Carrie, I don't see anything coming in yet, but I'm wondering what you notice. What are some noticings that you have from this snapshot of data here?
Oh, I have one that came in too, which is similar to mine. Half the class is ready to move on and probably have a challenge, but there's a half of a class that it could actually use more practice. And so that came in from Kimberly, which I had noticed similarly. Maybe like one in particular probably needs some one-on-one support before trying again.
You got it. You got it. And just one noticing for me, or something I want to share, is that sometimes when we look at those student scores, 63%, for example, it might be worth it to look on that deeper level to kind of see if it was a true misunderstanding. Sometimes the students, type the answer in incorrectly, or there's a very obviously kind of forgivable error that they made before you kind of just assess that they have not met mastery. So what do we notice? 50% of the students received scores below 70%, absolutely spot on. The conclusion is this subgroup of 4 students need more support to master that particular standard, absolutely. And what next steps could we take? And again, I'm just going to kind of go past this and give you our thoughts just in the interest of time. But if you have math centers, this is a great time to pull this group of 4 students and reteach. Then you could reassess in lots of different ways. You could reassess right there with them in the moment. You could delete their progress and allow students to try and demonstrate mastery again on their own. Or you could curate a custom exit ticket aligned to that standard to reassess for homework, in class, in support time. I've already mentioned skill builders. Skill builders are also a great way to reassess, and they're kind of automated, so students are going to get the amount of practice that they need to master the standard. All right, so some recommendations that we have is that you use ASSISTments report data to guide future instruction at least 75% of the time. We also recommend that you share key data points you use to guide instruction with students. The reason we recommend this, even with those younger kids that we have in our classes, is that students are going to exhibit a higher buy-in if they clearly see how you're using the data to modify the instruction and meet their needs. Students at this point are just so overwhelmed with different platforms and different technology, given what they went through this past couple of years, this year and a half. So I think when they see a platform that's actually serving them and is part of their regular routine in class, they're going to see the value of it. All right, and I'm not seeing any questions come in, and I want to make sure we hit on a couple topics in our wrap up. So I'm going to move on here, but please post those questions if you have them. All right, so I'm wondering, when do you think is the most relevant time that you will review data reports for your students, and for what purpose? So as I'm going through this last section, I'd love to hear you hear what you're thinking in the chat. When do you think specifically the report data is going to be shared with students? So recap of today, we reviewed part 1 and 2. We talked about step 3 on analyzing data. We talked about the data report and all of those valuable pieces of data inside, and using data to inform instruction and discuss. So hopefully those activities that we had, the scenarios and the little quiz, give you some ideas on how you can take ASSISTments data into your own classrooms. Carrie's going to share a link in the chat. We have a small group today, and we are a free tool, and our offerings are free. So the feedback that we get from the teachers who come to our sessions is really important to us and helps us to change and grow with our programming. So Carrie's going to put that in the chat. It's the Airtable link. So if you click on that, you can leave that open and then complete the feedback when you're ready. Please make sure to choose 825, and this is the new user webinar part 2 for grades 1 through 5. Just want to highlight that we do have some other sessions coming up in September and October. 5 common implementation challenges. Once you get into an ASSISTments routine, this may be a 30-minute session that you want to join to kind of think about some solutions to some common problems. If you're interested in about skill builders, we have a 30-minute session dedicated just to skill builders, how to assign them, how to read the data reports, what you can do with that data. And then later on in October, we have our first targeted webinar of the year, elevating teacher voices using ASSISTments to address unfinished learning. We are going to have teacher presenters on these. Carrie has presented a couple times for us in the past when she was still in the classroom. And we love these because you're really hearing from the teachers who are using ASSISTments. All of these webinars are free, of course. I just want to go over to our website just for a minute to show you a couple places that you might want to go to explore a bit if you have time. So first is the Help Center. This is where you're going to find some user resources on getting started. You'll find our reports and data user resources where you can kind of unpack all of the elements we talked about today. We have support for students, some videos to help them get started and understand, like I said, how to upload your open response questions. You'll also find our FAQs, our webinar library of all of our previous webinars, and then also our webinar sign up if you're looking to sign up for one of the opportunities that I shared. The other place I love to highlight is the Teacher Corner. So in the Teacher Corner, we have classroom artifacts by teachers. Some of these are printables, some of these are examples of how teachers talk about data with their students. So it's definitely a place to go and explore and see if any of the ways that teachers using ASSISTments here applies to your classroom. You can join our Facebook user community for a great place to ask questions and hear from other teachers, be the first to learn about different features that we share out. And then you can connect with us on Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And for any needs that you have, please don't hesitate to email us at contact@assistments.org. Primarily if you want those assessments from Kendall Hunt Illustrative Math, but also if you have any errors, any issues, any questions, anything at all, we'd love to hear from you. All right, so based on what you learned today, and I know I saw we had a teacher and a coach, some different kind of level educators in the room. So based on what you learned today, I'm wondering what is the priority next step for getting started with ASSISTments? We'll give about 60 seconds or so since we have that little amount of time.
Ooh, that's new. I think the Airtable feedback survey is blocked by a system firewall.
Okay, so we will be sharing the survey out in the follow-up email. So if you do have access to get onto a different device that doesn't have the firewall, you can access that from the email that we send out tomorrow. But that's good to know, Carrie.
It's like, oh,
All right, and it is the end of a long day. I know it is for me. I'm on the East Coast, so it's after 6 o'clock and my dinner is calling my name. I'm not seeing anything coming in the chat, and that's okay, guys. I'm glad you were with us today, and I hope we hear from you in the future. If you have any questions, join our Facebook user group. Let us know what you need to help us support you best. Contact@assistments.org is the best way to get in touch with us. And I'm seeing one response come in to start exploring this platform and think about how it might be useful for our teachers. And absolutely.
Someone came in to me that they're doing a PD tomorrow, and I am excited to share this information.
Excellent. Yeah. And those recordings will be out first thing tomorrow morning. So you'll even be able to share either the entire presentation with your group or at least that great video of Kim Kelly where she talks about how ASSISTments has transformed her classroom. Again, thank you, everyone. You'll get the follow-up email tomorrow morning. And just thanks in general for joining us on a Tuesday evening or afternoon. So have a wonderful rest of your day.